If you're just coming towards yourself with that energy and really proud of who you are, I'm actually really happy in who I am, and I really love myself fully and completely. There would have been time, even though I'm just saying that as a sentence, there would have been a time just saying that sentence for me would have been really hard.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the podcast Biz on the Brain with your host, me, Annemarie, where we talk about how to be your most unapologetic and authentic self in life and business and anywhere in between, because who needs masking? Who needs to put on a persona? Not us, because we're amazing and we just want to polarize the world with ourselves. Because naturally, when you show up as yourself, as you are full on, then people will be like, oh, I like that, or not for me. And then a lot of times people will try to give you unsolicited advice to make it more palatable for themselves, so you can change and tweak yourselves, be it with friendships or romantic partnerships or at work. And people pleaser me would have been so petrified, and I used to be so chameleon like, shifting and morphing depending on what people wanted more or less of me. And it's just soul sucking and it's energy consuming, and I don't like that for anybody. It's a terrible place to be in, not good for self-confidence. So I dedicated this podcast to talking about intuition, to talk about authenticity, and to talk about and with amazing women entrepreneurs who are on their spiritual self-healing, self-love journey, and help their clients be on that path, support them in different ways. And in this episode, I'm talking to Amanda Riley, who is a Reiki specialist. She does massage, she does a lot of spiritual mindfulness and meditation to really center her clients, give them the compassion they need to be confidently marching forward on the path towards or back to themselves, so they can just be abundant in their life, smash their goals, but in a way that really works for them. Like, we're not about the hustle culture here. So without further ado, I want you to listen to the wonderful and wise words of Amanda Riley, and I give the floor to her. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here because you're such a ray of sunshine and you're like so warm and fuzzy. Like, you give all the good feelings talking to you. So I'm happy to share you with the world. And so, hello, Amanda, and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, yeah, I'm Amanda Riley. And thank you for that lovely warm welcome. It's always nice to be welcomed in warmly. Who am I? I am a complementary therapist, so I do massage, reflexology, Reiki, Bowen, etc. But I also run meditation groups online, and with that in mind, I created a lovely brand of t-shirts, and tote bags, which also try and spread the message of meditation to encourage people to meditate more frequently, because meditation just brings such joy into my life. I feel so much more peaceful at the start of every day, and so many things have happened as a result of meditation that I just why wouldn't I want everybody to experience that joy? So that's me, really. Sums me up. I love to help people in whatever way I can. And I guess it stems from when I first started. I used to work in insurance, completely different, but I always had a theme that I wanted to help people. I was kind of working in a help desk environment in the insurance world. But when I left, I went traveling the world. And as I came back, I discovered that my father had been diagnosed with cancer. I literally was boarding the flight, making a phone call to my sister to say, how did the appointment with the specialist go? And she told me that he had terminal lung cancer. Well, in fact, we didn't know it was terminal at that stage. We thought she was trying to be positive. And I could tell she was trying to be very positive for my father at that time. And so that shaped and transformed my life going forward. And I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career, but I sort of was gently shoved in that direction. I started with massage, and it meant that I could then help my father through his treatment by giving him massage, as I'd always done naturally throughout my life anyway, was to always give him a shoulder rub. But I never really knew what I was doing, and it was just more of an act of love. And so everything developed from there, really.
I love that. So it just really developed around this like organic feeling of just wanting to help people. And there's so many ways to do that. And, meditation is one. You do Reiki also, massage, like all of, I feel like it's more being in your body is like the core of it, just like mindfulness. Because, that's my thing. Like I'm always in my head and then I forget that I have a body and like it has needs. And sometimes I need to like chill out or like move, not think about moving. Like that's not the same.
And being in your emotions, which is a tough one, because particularly for a lot of people don't experience joy on a regular basis. A lot of people feeling really low, depressed, sad, whatever it is. So to sit with those feelings feels really uncomfortable. But actually, in my experience and what I've learned over time, and it's taken time to learn, is that the more that I can sit with each emotion as it arises, the less time you have to spend in that emotion, and the more it can free you up towards joy. And that sounds the antithesis of somebody, the thing that you would want to do if you're feeling very low and sad and depressed and upset and anxious, anxiety, all of those things. The last thing you want to think is, oh, I know what, I'm going to step into that anxiety, because it doesn't fill you with a level of excitement. But actually the irony is it really does help to shift. It really does help to move you on. And I want people to live. I'd love everybody to live joyfully and happily and without stress. And if we could all kind of add more of that into our lives, we're always going to experience all these emotions. We're always going to have anger. We're always going to have fear. We're always going to have moments of anxiety, of rage, whatever it is. But we can minimize the impact that has on others by fully going into it and expressing it ourselves. So I try and always allow for my work to be a way of people expressing themselves freely.
And it's sort of also a transformation, but more towards yourself. And ironically, when you're like so depressed, you just don't want to deal with all of these uncomfortable feelings, because I've been there a lot. It's just like these weird things where like you just want to double down with like emotional music and being sad about it, like complaining about it, or like completely withdrawing and not telling anybody about it, because your mind tells you that you're like such a burden or whatever. Because it's usually the mind that just spins these stories, and just taking that step and like voicing them is already hard. But I noticed that when I'm actually being like, okay, like I'm sad, not think about why am I sad? What was the trigger? Just like, okay, let's just be sad. Like right now, I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to be sad. And then sometimes when I try to even label the feeling, which is like also part of the exercise, then it just suddenly gone. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
It just wants attention. It just wants you to move through it.
Absolutely. It's that needy child. We all have it. There isn't a single person who doesn't feel all the emotions, and so, but we all find ways in which to avoid it, don't we? For me, mine is to comfort eat. That's my way of avoiding an emotion. And it's so easy to do, because it's like blocking your mouth. You're putting something in, you're actually stopping yourself from communicating. And so, yeah, I think the more I work with others, the more it helps me too. So it's a win-win situation, because I'm constantly sitting with those emotions, and I can free them for myself too.
Yeah, but you also can relate to people. That's why I found like usually when I'm in my business, trying to do something. I'm much more effective when I come from a place of like, I can actually genuinely relate, or I've been there, like maybe even last week or last month, like something that still keeps me in that space where I can relate, but I've already overcome some of it so I can more efficiently help people. And then it's not just like this glorified expert helping people, things that they're so detached from, but it's just really more about that connection and just also this process of being in this collective where you can't completely heal yourself by yourself. I always like, oh, I have to like fix myself and then I can like go out and like have the best friendships, relationships, whatever. But that's not how things work.
No.
In a community, and it's not a burden to be happy all the time, to bring people down because like they're jealous, or to be depressed, so you're bringing people down because you are so sad. That's what I always thought. I had to regulate everybody else but myself. And as a kid, so many people are not regulated properly by their parents because they don't know how to do that. And so we don't learn about emotions being completely neutral. They're just an expression of something happening to you, with you, and your body reacting to it. And there's no label that should be attached to it. But we do that in society, like, oh, you're sad, that's bad. Like, you're angry, don't be, especially as women. We're supposed to be so emotional, but at the same time, we're demonized for it. So yeah, it's just really that labeling that we internalize, and we're like, oh, I can't possibly be sad now. Or like those just this thing that happens when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like close to a burnout, I'm gonna have a cry, but I'm gonna postpone it for after workout.
Yeah.
That's wild. Like that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting, isn't it, when you think about it, how much we try and push away, and it's like, oh my God, let's just be present with what is, and actually and like the hard emotions, and acknowledge that, amount of times I've heard people say, or women in particular say, "Oh, I don't get angry. I don't feel anger." And I've said it myself several times. "Oh no, I'm not an angry person."
The label, it doesn't make you a bad person because you express anger. Sometimes it's really needing, like it's there to kick you into gears because
Absolutely, it's the driver.
unfairness. If something is treated unfair, if I don't see fair, I don't know, whatever, or like towards myself or towards others, I get so livid. I want to like be Hulk. I want to smash things. I want to turn over tables. I want to fix this thing. Like anger kicks me into gear, and the more when I was growing up, the more I like repressed that, the more I got into like other bodily problems, just like tummy issues. Like I always had an upset stomach, all of these things because I wasn't allowed to express that because I was the good girl.
Yeah.
So, but that's not exclusive. Like it is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think the more it's a lesson. It's a life's journey, isn't it? It's a life's work. No one's ever going to be 100% perfect with it, and I certainly am not. But I have progressed along the way and learned a lot. But I still need to practice myself and to do it continue. So yeah, but the more I think, the more we can all become aware, and that's another thing. A reason why I love meditation is that it gets us into awareness of the thoughts. Actually, rather than people think that you have to be completely thoughtless without thought, but actually you do get to be more aware of the thoughts that go on, and then once you're more aware of what's there, you can actually begin to sort of shift and laugh at them and kind of say, oh wow, did I really have that mad thought? I used to get random things about and that I would never do in a million years. One of the maddest things was like
Just some thoughts.
yeah, I was like,
I'm off the bill because
I remember thinking that I wanted to kick my dog. I was like, I don't want to kick my dog. There's no way I want to kick my dog. I adore my dog. There's no way I would ever want to kick my dog. Just wouldn't. It's just not what I wanted to do. But the thought would come up, and I was like, why is that thought coming up? But these random thoughts do come up. We can have all sorts of just bizarre thoughts, and so why is it that we can acknowledge that some thoughts are completely bizarre, but other thoughts will lead us into this hell, and so I think if we can understand where the thoughts are and we can kind of begin to say, well, not all of them are particularly rational, then we can start to find some balance in our life and a bit more harmony and a bit more peace. And so yeah, that's why I love to do the work. I love to help people in that way.
Love that. And I just like that, what you just said was just so great. Like how you can, because my mind often like tricks me into being like, this thought, like it's like black or white. Like you have to do the thing, you have to do it right. You have to like, or you're like the worst person because you just forgot to give somebody a donation to change or like whatever. Like I just made a mistake and suddenly my mind's like, oh my God, you're worthless. And like, okay, no, stop. And like the more I notice myself talking, the more I could change it. But also so many times we just think something is truth when our mind just says something. We have this conviction behind it, fed by trauma or whatever. But like you said, like there are some thoughts that are absolutely ridiculous. Some thoughts, the more mindful you are, you realize are like rooted in what you've been taught as a child. Like repetitive phrases where people always tell me like, "Oh my gosh, you're too much, you're too loud." All of these things like sunk into me now that I know that I have ADHD. I'm just like, yeah, that's the thing. Like if you don't like me and my symptoms, then we can't hang. That's cool. But but just knowing that most of your thoughts are just that thoughts, and like meditation is just this, like I like this comparison with the sky. Like your thoughts are the clouds, and the sky, it's always there. Like cloudy, sometimes it moves fast, sometimes it's like tumultuous and storms, whatever. But your meditation, you just sit there and you like just look at the weather. You don't judge the cloud for being so big and ugly. You're just like, ugh, go away. Like it doesn't work like that. Like if you were a meteorologist, you just like write it down. And that's how I see meditation. But
Great analogy, yeah.
yeah, so I really, but like my thing is, especially with my ADHD, I find it so hard to do meditation because I can't really get in that relaxed state. Because sometimes because I have all the thoughts all the time layered on top of each other. So when I sit in myself, it's boring. So I learned like I'm allowed to move, like, undulate your hips, like shake your shoulders, whatever. But sometimes that distracts me, or like I'm sitting in my thoughts and suddenly all of it is gone and I have like a freak out because like, what's that? Like, I don't have thoughts. It's just like what's going on? And then I like start daydreaming. I'm like, you have to get back, like focus on your breathing. Then like, oh, I don't like how air feels in my throat. Like sometimes I feel my bodily stuff and I'm like, ew, no, I don't want to feel that. It's like I struggle sometimes with meditation. The more I do it consecutively, the easier it gets. But like consecutive things are so hard for ADHD. I don't know if you've got any tips on that.
Well, I'm obviously naturally, I will say join a group because I run a daily online meditation group. Yeah. But for me, I don't think I'm fully ADHD, but I think I have a tendency towards that way. I've certainly had a lack in focus and a lack in concentration most of my life, but not necessarily overwhelmed with thoughts. But I did struggle a lot when I first started to meditate. And so the way I have done it is to set up a group so that I have to. There is no choice because I'm running it for other people. I can do anything for another person. Do it for myself is a lot harder. So that's why I say, well, come and join a group because then you've got the accountability. I message every day. I send people a link. Come and join. It'll be fun. But the joy is also with my group is that you don't have to start at the start time. You can join in whenever you want. If you find yourself getting too frazzled, just leave. But also I allow people to come and be in their own space. Although it is a guided meditation, you don't have to follow that guidance. You could just come because you want to find that little bit of peace. And so I think if you struggle with the consistency, find yourself a group, if it's not mine, it's somebody else's, where you know that you're going to have that accountability to show up, the same as you would do with the gym membership. You can have a gym membership and you know that you're paying a fee, but actually, unless you book into a class, there's still not that accountability. So, it's just booking for the class. So, and because I do it live as well, it's not like, I think it then allows you to convince yourself that you need to stay during it, but you don't. In my group, you can just stay for a minute. But I feel like if you come with the intention of, I am going to let myself think all the thoughts and allow them to flow, then actually you give yourself the time and space for them to flow, for it to become more silent. And then actually, because an ADHD brain is incredibly creative brain, and there's a lot there that is hugely insightful. And sometimes that becomes a bit jumbled up, but meditation is really deeply powerful because that creativity can be enhanced even further by just allowing to really observe as much of those thoughts as you can. So if you see it for an ADHD brain as a thought observer rather than a move away from, then you're actually, it has the same effect. It's just a challenge in the thinking, that's all.
True. I kind of feel like it feels like we're like, it's a, like giving you another metaphor, like, like you have this garden and like ADHD brings like chucking the seeds everywhere, boom, and like grow whatever. And like the meditation would be more like raking things into like neat lines. It's not like you need to organize everything neatly and then like get overwhelmed, but like it's just you sort things like a Zen garden sort of thing. Like you just like separate the thoughts, you can like watch them simultaneously, like you watch a screen at a movie. You just sit there with your popcorn, and if you're bored, you go to the other one, and then maybe they're overlaid. But you're just sitting there. You can just observe, or you don't observe. You just like allow it. And I think it's the removal of the judgment, which is so common when you're constantly. You're like, oh, why can't I focus? Why can't I just do the simple task? And
everybody else is doing it better than me.
yes, and people are just giving me this like unsolicited advice that doesn't work for my brain, and it seems so easy for them. Like, when people tell you like just go shower, like there's nothing like hard about it. Like ask anybody with ADHD. Showering is like a gazillion micro tasks, and then you have to like manually like run the program in your head to do this. It's not just a thing you do, like, just go to shower and suddenly you're clean. Like, no, there's all of these steps. And so that's part of like meditation, helps you just sort things more naturally when it's not just like all of this bundled up thing where you're like, oh god, all of the things freaking me out.
I think certainly with ADHD, there's a level of anxiety within it, and that you, if you're feeling a more of a natural state of calm, then your brain can become more balanced with it. It's not saying that you can move away from ADHD. It is a natural function of your brain, but it can allow for the calm and more space. That's all.
No, that's true. I noticed that when I went a couple of years ago, I was very consistent with with the meditation because I used like Headspace, and then it's cute. Like it has all of the variety. Like since I don't have that subscription anymore, I noticed I've been slacking. But what I've noticed is that when I just make the meditation like the first step, like because I always want to jump into things, like there's always something I could be doing, watering the plants, like they need to eat before I do, like what? But then I need to do this, and that's just email, and suddenly the day is gone because I've just been like like externally determined, like all of the steps and stuff. Like when I do meditation, I can be more mindful and intentional about like, okay, I've got all of these 5 things warring in my head for a priority, but I'm just like, no, this one, and the other ones I can still hear, but I can be much more like have more willpower of sorts,
And I think also if you have ADHD, you can just walk while you're meditating as well, and try and just try and consciously slow your pace down. But at least you're moving your body at the same time, so then you are allowing for that for that movement to occur. So then it gives more freedom for the brain to relax if there's a bit of movement, I think.
I do that too. Like I go on like the mental health walk like once or twice a day where I just like walk around. It's the same things that I do, but I'm like just open to whatever impulse I have. Like if I want to turn left, I'm just gonna turn left. If I want to touch the flowers, and then sometimes I just like zone out or like autopilot walking, and I'm just like off in my headspace. Like to get the ADHD glare where you just like stare into nothing and you just walk. Like I'm sure I scared a lot of people looking like I'm like dead behind the eyes, just like walking. But like that I didn't think that could be meditation. So that's interesting.
But the upside is that you have this wonderful creative talent. So there's always a plus to the minus, isn't there? And it's about
Yeah,
focusing on that. Mm.
yeah, now that I know more about it, know that I actually have a diagnosis that explains me, like so I can like defend myself more, communicate better, and like honor my needs. Now I just appreciate it much more. Of course, like there's a lot of downsides to it, but I can like see what it really gives me when people are like, "Yeah, your brain is so different." I'm like, "Yes, literally." It's what I've always said, and people said to me too. But like, it's just been a fact the entire time, and I can use that to just like get creative ideas out of nowhere, like just talking to people, just looking at a thing, like drifting off, and suddenly I have a project fully formed. And I'm like, here you go. I don't want to do it, but it's already mapped out for you.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, that's the down. There's the downside, which I have very much myself. Is like you can kind of create and then taking the action steps are the hard part, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the thing. Finding the people to take over would be great.
absolutely. We just all need a bit of admin staff in the background.
Ugh, loathe it so much. There are people who love it. I'm just like, yes, you can have that work, please. You're
Mm, absolutely. I love that we're so neurodiverse, and that there are people who it's really, really safe and positive for them to be in one lane, and
Ah,
to see things straight and to do things in a certain way, in a certain direction. And that's great, because then it allows for those of us that aren't that way to have people that can support us in that way.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what makes the world so bright and shiny.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to just take people as they are and not try to like fit them in, which is so typical for our society. Like the way you grow up in school, you have to, fit in, be still, be quiet, just regurgitate the information, and then you just go study or whatever. And then you just like, you always fulfill a role dictated by others in a way that is, deemed acceptable. And then anything that is deviant is just frowned upon, or you're not in control enough, or you're obnoxious. Like there's all of these labels, and like it just let people be. Because like how would we have evolved as a society if we didn't have all of these varieties of brains, of people, of approaches? Like innovation would not be possible if you always follow protocol.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We need it. We need the vast expanse and variation and desire, and all of the, yeah, as you say, all of the wonderful creative talents that have, created all the everything.
Exactly. In science and art, like everything. Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's a shift happening where people are much more mindful or woke about just letting people just let them be themselves, They're like, if it doesn't harm anybody, if it's none of your business, stay out. And there's this beautiful whole world. You can find people that vibe with you, and people who
Mm.
don't, you can just not hang out with. It's often like easier said than done if you're like in this like work environment. You can like select your teammates or whatever, but there's always some sort of control you can have over your boundaries, over the space and people you allow in your life with, even if it's just seasonal. Like sometimes people change, people always change, but sometimes people change in a different direction. And then usually I get very like sad that I'm like trying to force this, but like it's out its time. Like I find it super hard to let that go, but it's just part of life. Like the more you just go with the flow, be very like Tao, you know?
I was listening to a fascinating podcast actually the other day called The F Word, which is it's Elizabeth Day. She runs a podcast called How to Fail, and she's done 3 different ones. One was Mo Gaudat, and she's talking about relationships, about how you can just let relationships come and go, and in terms of friendships, because we sort of have a defined um, concept of idea of and discussions in terms of a romantic relationship. We can talk about where we want to go with that romantic relationship. We talk about whether we want to have children or whatever it is. There's a defined role for a romantic relationship. But when it comes to friendships, we don't ever define our friendship role. We don't sit down and say, where are we going as friends? And that seems a bit kind of like crazy. Hey, we're just friends. We're just hanging out. But actually, she's like, why don't we write a contract with our friends? Why don't we say how we want to be? If we just want to one, we meet each other once every 3 months or once a year, or when the feeling arises, rather than it having to be an intense, we have to contact each other every day. Some relationships can get overbearing because one person wants more than the other person is able to give, and there's not an understanding of that balance. So I found it really fascinating there is a real shift. There is a real understanding that, actually it's good for us to be selfish. And we've never thought that before. We've always thought it's wrong to be selfish. And actually, if we're trying to do good and do well in the world, we need to have our energies directed in the right direction. So we need to be around the people that are going to uplift us or support us, and we can support them, and it becomes a union, a community. And I think it feels really positive to me. It feels like, even though there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that isn't nice, it isn't pleasant, I feel like there's an uprising against that. But as I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, that, there always will be that black and white. There always will be. You need the black to see the white. So that, you need the yin and the yang for life to be in balance. And if you want to be part of the light and part of the joy, find your community, find the people that you enjoy spending time with, which is why I love being in the networking group that we're in, because it feels like, we meet people all the time that have that same ethos, that are trying to do the best that they can be and share with other people as well, which I think brings about great joy and positivity, and I'm all for that.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to like look at who you want to become and like who is in that headspace that helps you get there or helps affirm it, like in some way. Because I used to be so in the everything's awful, like I'm such a victim crowd. And that was like this trauma bonding, like whine together. But it just doesn't feel good. It didn't help anybody like be better or get out of the circle. Only when I completely removed myself and traveled the world to Australia, and then it just like happened upon the nicest people who like showed me that all the emotions are fine and like myself is fine, and then I could be really selective who I want to hang out with, what I needed, and like that being selfish. Where I'm like, I don't want to meet people today. I'll be antisocial. Like if people want to chat me up on hostels, I'll be like, no, thank you. And at the same time, what I've learned is that being selfish is, like necessary. Like who else should you put first other than yourself? You cannot put that on other people, not your partner, not your parents. You need to look after yourself first because you're your own person. You know yourself best. And if everybody fends for themselves, from a loving place where they don't want to like take from other people, like, not that lack place where you're just like, no, I want to be abundant so I can help other people like pour from a full cup kind of situation. Like on airplanes when you have to like put the gas mask, yeah, mask on
Oxygen mask.
and then
Yeah.
help other people because like no you're no use to anybody if you just like drop unconscious and then like the kid is still there crying with the mask like so it's really that, but it's also a service to other people when you go like, I don't like this. This is what I expect. This is what I want. So they know exactly what they're gonna get, and then they can decide if that's actually where they want to go. Like you said, with like friendship contracts. So often I felt this situationship of sorts with friends where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to be your best friend, but I'm not sure if you actually like me. I'm not sure if you actually have time to hang out with me. And I would like make up all these scenarios. Like I would like, from romantic movies, I would do that with friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go on this trip. We're gonna do this. We're gonna like be besties and like do, like. And then they were just didn't have any time, or like in the middle of chats, they would leave, and I would be like, do they just like me, or are they like stuck in traffic? Are they dead on the road? Like, I need more variables to know exactly where this is going, how they see this, and that is also an uncomfortable topic. And people are like, wow, that's a bit much. Like if like when I called people out when I was already frustrated, which is not a good place. Or like you're just like, oh, I really want to hang out more. Is that possible? Or like, are you just too busy? And then I at least know, like if you just open, and that's part of just learning how to communicate and be okay with other people, because you cannot expect or control their actions, but at least you know things. You know where you stand, like you have to look at their actions, even if they say things, I totally want to be friends, and they never call you. You're like, okay, I can keep asking you if you were going to call me. You can keep saying yes, but I can also look at your actions and be like, yeah, that I deserve better.
But also look at your energy
Yeah.
and what is it that you're bringing to the party. So if you're coming at them with, oh my God, I'm really good, they might be like, okay, that's a bit much. So, oh,
People out. So I'm like, okay, if you think I'm already too much, then we're not gonna like. I have ADHD. If I like you, I like you. Like I'll, I like, I just like, oh my God, I send you gifts all the time. I will like talk about my favorite things because you're like a safe person. And some people are like, why do you talk about yourself? Like, why do you tell me all of these things? It's called like pebbling. It's like that's a term for it, where you're just like, like those penguins that give pebbles to other penguins to show them their love language, sort of thing. So I'm just like, I will like spam you. And that's like my sign of like, I thought of you. Here's a pebble, and a lot of people don't like that. And so if I start off really strong, because that's the ADHD where you go like full force, and then people are like, whoa. And you're like, okay, we can't vibe. This doesn't work because I don't want to pretend as if I'm like chill. And then I'm anxious inside, and I try to time the message. Like I look at and like, okay, I send a message, so I have to wait for 3 hours. Like that's bonkers. Like I don't want to put myself through that for the comfort of other people, so they think I'm chill. And so I'm like, I just want to like set the record straight with people. I'm like, this is what you get. Do you like it or not? Like hurt my feelings now, so I don't get attached right away. You know?
good. Yeah, I think it is good. Everybody knows where they stand then, don't they? And then, we have the right to say no or yes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah. But like when you slowly try to like get people used to you, or you like them, or like you try to like dose it, it is even harder when you realize you're actually not a fit. You just try to make yourself work, and then
Exactly. It's so much harder if you remold yourself to fit somebody else, and then they don't like that, and then you feel like, oh, well, what's so? I've been trying really hard, but actually, if you just get out with it, with who you are and happy with who you are, that's the ultimate thing. Is once you really get to love yourself fully, then you love yourself enough not to worry whether anybody else does or not,
Yeah.
and actually you become fully lovable, and everybody does want to love you. It's been my life lesson in learning that one. I used to do that all the time, trying to look for relationships and go, oh yeah, please, 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 please love me.
Yeah. So what do you have to do to make this work? And sometimes it's like, you have to be yourself. And then you're like, no, that doesn't seem to be good enough. And it's a big issue there. Like you have to be good enough for yourself You can like set the boundaries properly so you can be like fully comfortable with yourself, even if like nobody in the world were to like you, which isn't true, but sometimes your brain will tell you that. Like you're the most awful person, nobody likes you as you are, whatever. Then like at least I like myself. Like I'm so fun. I'm so good company. And then you realize the more people see you like playing by yourself having fun, it's like on a playground with kids, they'd be like, oh my gosh, like that looks fun. Like I don't know what it is, so let's be friends. Like I think whatever the energy is there, it's just it's contagious.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being yourself. Just, yeah, there's nothing more attractive than someone being authentically them,
Yeah.
and not needing another. When you only need yourself, there's no kind of pulling towards, which is a repellent energy. It's like a magnetic field in the opposite direction. Nobody wants somebody that's constantly coming towards. But if you're just coming towards yourself with that energy and really proud of who you are, I'm actually really happy in who I am, and I really love myself fully and completely. I can even, there would have been time, even though I'm just saying that as a sentence, there would have been a time just saying that sentence for me would have been really hard.
Well, yeah.
But
Same.
I can actually say that now and feel it and mean it. So it's a big learning curve, I think, for most people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some people are born with the joy and luxury of loving themselves, but the rest of us have to go through the journey of that.
Yes. Oh, and what a journey it has been. Yeah. Like the way I used to talk to myself or like saw myself, I'm just like, having to shape shift into whatever other people wanted. And then that wasn't good enough. So like, of course, people didn't like me for me because they didn't even see me ever because I didn't let them because that didn't feel safe. And sometimes it was really not safe for certain people that tried to make it work. But I think that's also the thing that is the wrong premise with any kind of relationship, platonic or romantic, which they always shove down your throat in movies. Like you have to make yourself more palatable, like as a woman, but also like you have to change your partner so you become compatible. No, you take them as they are. Do you like them right now? They might never ever change. People change out of their own volition. You can't make them want to change. You just make them resentful. Um, and do they want to change you? Like, are you compatible right now? And if you naturally evolve together, hopefully, maybe you will evolve in different directions, which can still work if you want to make it work. But like, it's just do I accept this person right now in this moment? And you do that like every month, every day, whatever. You're like, or not. Like, you have to honor that for yourself, but also for the other people. Because I think ultimately, if you try to just please everybody and like bend yourself over backwards, you're doing a disservice to everybody, yourself, other people. Because I feel like at the core of it is some sort of manipulation, not out of evil intentions, but it's just like self protection. But it is trying to manipulate yourself, the environment, so it feels in control. And when I realized that, like, oh my gosh, if I'm trying to like just be the best, perfect person for this person, then that's kind of sneaky, even though like that's not what I want to do. But I'm like, I don't allow them to see me. I don't allow them to have a genuine connection with me. And I don't allow myself that experience either. So like, what's the point?
And it's understandable. It's safety to start with, isn't it? We don't want to get hurt, but actually we do often end up hurting ourselves more by not being authentic. And but yeah, it takes time to learn, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And yeah. So I don't know. That's why I love having these conversations here on the podcast. So I can share that with other people. Because I had all of these so many conversations like these that really helped me be more awake to all of these things and just see other people's perspective. Because I think that's the power of community when you just can be more vulnerable and like learn to like yourself through other people liking you. Sometimes you need that outward validation to then copy that inside if it hasn't been mirrored to you when you were growing up, right? But it also like helps you find role models of sort, or like helps to see inspiration from like mundane conversations. Like some of the most random conversations with strangers in passing were completely mind altering to me. Like they unlocked something in me
Yeah.
because you're not forcing anything, you're just allowing whatever happens to happen. And then friendships, if you know people, if they already have a notion of the role you play in their life or like how you are, we don't allow other people to change in front of us also, right? So like that's I noticed, especially when you travel, like you come back a changed person and then people like snub at it. Like there's all of these jokes about people studying abroad and suddenly they're a different person. But like it changes you. It really does.
Mm.
And you can't just download that onto another person for them to see it.
No, no. I think we all come to our own understandings. It's funny how, we can. A friend of mine told me that no one can make you feel a thing. And I was like, of course they can. They can be really horrible and I'll feel really upset. And he's like, no one can make you feel a thing. And I was just like, every time I was like, oh, just stop saying this blooming phrase. People can make me feel that you're making me feel really angry right now because you keep repeating this phrase. And then finally it sort of sunk in. And then when I understood it and really got it, and about 3 years, I'm quite a slow learner. About 3 years down the line of his constant repeating this thing, that I finally sunk in, and then it would appear in other conversations. The synchronicity of life is, oh, okay, other people know this too. It's not just me who's learned this now, and it's like we get these little thought drops come in, don't they, from other people, and then it's like, yeah. I've come to
Yeah.
this understanding now, so I can hear it otherwhere. I can hear it. I can finally acknowledge it's here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had people like say things to me that I'm like, now I'm just like, that would have been great if I had gotten it the first time around. But sometimes you just need it over and over again in different contexts, different people, different wordings. Like that phrase is probably like close to what Eleanor Roosevelt said, like nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. Which is like I read that and I was so mad at it. And it took me years until I like got the idea. Like I can just like throw like I can insult you in German and you would be like, okay, what did you say?
Exactly.
That doesn't mean anything. Or I can insult you in English. I could like, you're a dumb tree. You're like, so I'm like, what does that mean? Like,
Exactly.
you have some sort of control over your stories, how they react, and like just even perceiving them. Like sometimes I get triggered so fast that I'm like, like somebody says something to me that triggers something from my childhood, some mirrored situation, and then suddenly my mind tells me a story, and then I'm suddenly feeling so depressed, and all of in a split second, and I don't know what just happened. Because, like, they might have said something completely casually stupid or casually cruel that usually wouldn't face me, but in this moment it did somehow. And then, again, I could just overanalyze it, or I can just sit there and be like, let's just hug it out with myself. Like, whatever. Um, but it's just like having to go through these experiences multiple times and then ultimately training yourself to be more mindful of it. Like that's what my therapist currently tries to like really get down my throat. She's just like, because I'm like, I'm not learning from this. Like I can see the parallel from this. She's like, but you noticed it this time. I'm like, yeah, but like this time it didn't change. She's like, but you noticed it. Just keep noticing it. It's like, but
Exactly.
it's like you don't need to change it. You just keep observing it. Don't judge. Take it away. Just look at it. And like you did something different. You did something, and sometimes it takes time. It's okay.
It does, absolutely, yeah. But being aware is the first step, isn't it? If you
Yeah.
can't even notice it, then you're never going to be able to change it. So the more you notice it, the more you can step out of it and go, oh yeah, and then you can kind of start to understand why and where it is, and then you can even maybe, if you have to, apologize for what it was that triggered.
Yeah, no, just being mindful is such a huge shift, and so many people are not mindful. It's normal. We're like on autopilot most of the time. It's conserving energy, brain power. It's just habitual, a lot of things. But and then when you call people out on things, again, they might be triggered by that. It might just be like you setting boundary, but they might And if you're not mindful of it, you're like, I'm just agitated. I can't have a conversation right now. I need to calm myself down. That's not what people say. They will like deflect and defend and like attack or whatever. And then I noticed when I notice patterns that I used to react in that way with, or like I can see they're like triggered or whatever. But when I start to address it and they feel like, I don't know, belittled or like even more agitated, so I'm like, oh, you can't make somebody mindful, even if you point it out. That's just like unsolicited advice. That's kind of not it.
No. And when you're right deep in something,
Yeah.
it's really
You
not the
just
best time.
survival mode. You can't think logically. Let them like
No,
feel the feelings. You know, like a little kid has a temper tantrum. We're so like big toddlers sometimes. You just like,
absolutely.
you have big feelings right now. Okay. Just like go bend over there, not at me, but we'll talk later. I see this is not working. But not shaming them either. Like, honor yourself and your boundaries, but go like, okay, you have a thing right now, do the thing, get through it, and then we talk.
Yeah. Hopefully that'll be the future of parenting.
Hopefully.
Let's allow people to have the tantrums, to have the kids, to let them be screaming their heads off and
Yeah.
allow it to happen. Give them
Yeah.
to do that. And then when they've calmed down, to ask the question, are you okay? No. But I hold space, which is easier said than done when you're a parent and you're trying to get your life moving and get stuff going and shopping or whatever it is, to allow for the tantrum in the middle of the street or in the middle of the shop. Or but maybe that's what they should have. It's like little corners in shops for the child to have the tantrum, take the
Right.
tantrum corner.
But I don't
Squat
think you
moving.
can drag the child across the supermarket to get into the corner. I think that might not be it. But like, how cool would it be like from those sci-fi movies? You just like click a button and you have like this bubble around you, and then you
Yes.
can scream. And outside, nothing, but inside you hear this storm. Like you can even be standing outside. That would be great as a parent. I don't want to hear the kid screaming like that.
Yeah.
Like up there, and then it can punch something.
That would be brilliant. These are inflatable things. We should have carry these rucksacks with us that are like inflatable bags.
Oh God, somebody needs to make this.
Exactly. It'd be perfect. Perfect for an autistic child, all right? And they're in this meltdown to have this immediate safe
And
space.
if also like they can throw themselves on the ground, they might be cushioned with this bubble. That would be great. They can hurt themselves, or if they're like epileptic, or if you're just like angry at your taxes as an adult, you can scream in this bubble, like like an asteroid bubble. Just run around, like curse at everybody, and nobody would hear it. That'd be great. I love that.
I think we've just designed a new product there.
No, stop it. So have a copyright for the idea. Does a thing exist? I don't know. Like, yes.
I think we're good with coming up with the ideas. Now we need somebody else to actually put it into action.
I don't know a thing about developing stuff, so that's cool. I love that. I already can picture it like a movie. I already see it in my head. It's so cool. I think I've seen that in some movie too, like where you just like have the bubble and they have like secret discussions. Where was that? I just like I don't remember the exact movie, but I did that and it just like floated. Oh, but yeah. Cool. No, that's a cool idea. I want that. Oh, also be great for people who like singing teachers. You can like just build out an opera and your neighbors are fine.
Yeah. Or practice your violin or whatever. Yeah, the recorder.
What kids play the recorder for the first time in these bubbles? That's it. I was so bad at the recorder, and I had to.
Who is good at it?
It's such a terrible. I don't like this instrument at all. It's not even pretty. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. It's like I was scarred by it, so I didn't buy it. But yeah, like when people practice instrument, and there are so many applications. Or like how cool would it be like those cars who blast music all over the place, who must be deaf in there? I don't know how that works. Like they need a bubble. Like I don't want to do that.
But they want to blast. I suppose they don't necessarily want it to blast to everybody else. They just want to blast themselves, don't they? Yeah.
I have no idea how that works because also like with the people who could buy headphones, but they choose to walk around with like a little speaker box in their backpack, and they walk around areas and neighborhoods in the city so everybody hears their stupid rap music. It's always rap music, but not good ones. You know, it's just like the most obscure thing, and it's so canny from this little tin box. Like you, there's been an invention. It's called the headphone. I don't need to hear terrible audio. But I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't know. I always wondered if it's like that, if they just like don't care, or if they just want to upset people. I don't know.
Maybe they want to spread the word of the rap.
Maybe, but then they should like walk around with a T-shirt or something, like, or like a button, like talk to me about like stupid ass music. You know, like whatever the band's called. Anyway. Pen. Oh my gosh. It's been so lovely talking to you. Is there any topic we haven't talked about that you wanted to get out there? Any like words of wisdom or something that really you need to want to address?
I guess the same that I kind of always say is that if anybody is in suffering right now, because I understand that process, and I understand when I was deeply in suffering. I was in a lot of pain through suffering with ulcerative colitis and couldn't really get life going at all. And I just want to honor that for people and say, I understand, and it's okay. And we don't have to be perfect all the time, and things shift. And don't ever forget, even if you've been stuck in something for years. I was good 10 years into disease before there was any real inkling of a shift. So just acknowledge that, you know, it takes time. Healing takes time, and it can feel like an eternity. But I've seen so many people shift, and shifts do happen. And if you want it to happen, you're willing to change, and you allow for change to happen, it will. But don't beat yourself up, and don't hurt yourself or attack yourself, because sometimes these shifts are deep and dark and painful. They are all a really good learning and a really good lesson. And it's tough to see that when you're in the inside of it. So I just send heartfelt love, support and compassion, because I've been there myself. And please don't attack yourself in the process.
That's true. So very true, because I definitely did that. When I was at my lowest, I was like, my worst enemy. That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help you heal. You need love and compassion. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do when you don't know how that looks like. Yeah. So just follow like small glimmers, you know, just follow the little things that you know will make a little bit of a difference. You don't ever have to be perfect. You don't ever have to do all the things all the days. But yeah, like even shifts, you don't even have to see all of the, like sometimes it helps to have like a therapist reflect back on you. Like you made, you know, a change. You're doing things. And you're like, do I really have? It's like you're being mindful, you're being less critical. Like all these little things, if you notice them, celebrate them, be like compassionate towards yourself, and yeah, be your own cheerleader. Like now when people give me compliments, I will not like degrade myself and be like, oh no, like that shirt is so ratty, like I got it. Like no, I'm just like, yes, thank you, it's a great shirt. Like, oh yes, like I look pretty today indeed, because I put a lot of work into my makeup, so I own it. And then, you know, it might trick people up, but like whatever. You know, you need to be your own better. And whatever way that, like, if you ate breakfast today, good job. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like you did a thing you usually don't do. Good job, like a good thing. Good job. Like you need to be stupid with it. Like, and the more you do it, the less awkward it becomes, and then you don't have to do it that much anymore. But like, this feeling of cheering yourself on to cheer yourself up can take a long road to get anywhere, but then it goes up steeply, and you don't see it when you're in the midst of it. Like you said, you just need to do it and trust and want to change.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Is there like, how can people find you in the group? How can people connect?
So, my easiest way to connect is through my website. It's theartofhealing.me.uk. I'd happily talk to anybody, anytime. Drop me an email, info@theartofhealing.org.uk, and I'll happily respond.
Love that. I'll put the link down below as well. So thank you so much for being on here. Any parting words?
Thank you. No, just thank you very much for coming. I've loved the chats, loved all of the creativity and the thoughts, and I love all of your analogies. I think they're brilliant. Yeah, I think it's been fun. I highly recommend other people coming along.
Thank you. Well, thanks. I accept the compliments.
Well done. And
well, I wish you
in my little group too.
Yes, I definitely need to check it out.
Fab.
Fab. All right, I wish you a fab day, and I'll talk to you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. As always, there were a lot of pearls of wisdom, a lot of really cool quotable things that I will love replaying and maybe repurpose on social media, so you can like dive deeper in, just think about it more, have that sink in, because like we said, there are a lot of lessons we keep learning over and over and over until we actually click, until there's actually a shift. And sometimes those shifts are minimal, sometimes you need to reaffirm to make it into a habit, or entirely shift the trajectory of your life, but it's through change in action and mindset and just being nice to yourself that really makes the biggest difference. And sometimes that could be slower, sometimes it could be over. Like, you don't know, so you have to just accept the flow and be your own biggest cheerleader through it all. So I hope this episode resonated with you. If you've got any questions or you want to connect with us, the links are down below, so you can go check out Amanda Riley and her webpage, The Art of Healing, the meditation she does and offers regularly to help keep you grounded and help keep you accountable. And also, if you want to chat with me, if you want to be on the podcast, if you want to comment on the podcast, and it would be great if you left a review, because that's the way to push it out into the world, to introduce it to more people so we can have amazing conversations that might be life-changing to other people, because I learned so much from just listening to other people be and their experiences and all of that. So leave a comment, follow me, and I'll see you in the next episode next Friday. Bye!